If you've never been to the Philippines before, let me save you a little confusion right now. A lot of what happens here is completely normal to Filipinos and completely baffling to foreigners, and I don't mean big dramatic things. I mean the weird little everyday stuff that makes you stop, blink twice, and think, wait, what just happened? I'm Zia, and today I want to talk about 10 funny things foreigners always get wrong in the Philippines. Not because people here are trying to confuse you on purpose, although sometimes it really does feel that way, but because Filipino culture runs on a totally different kind of logic. And if you don't understand that logic, even simple moments can feel like a prank the whole country is playing on you. So let's get into it. One of the funniest shocks for foreigners is the bathroom situation. Because yes, there are places in the Philippines where you may literally have to pay to use the toilet. And that alone is enough to make some people feel like they've entered a parallel universe. But it gets even better. In some spots, the price can change depending on what you're planning to do in there. One price for number one, another for number two. Imagine standing there, half panicked, handing money to a stranger before your body can proceed with its emergency. It feels fake the first time you hear about it until you're the one standing there with the attendant waiting for your bathroom confession. And even after you pay, there's still one more surprise waiting for you. A lot of public toilets do not have toilet paper. So now the foreigner who thought the money solved the problem is suddenly learning lesson number two. Always check the supplies before you commit your soul to the situation. Another thing foreigners get wrong fast is how Filipinos answer questions. Or maybe I should say, how Filipinos do not answer questions the way foreigners expect. A lot of outsiders think they asked something simple, and then 10 seconds later, they're more confused than before. You ask a direct question, and you get either one word, a sideways answer, or a whole long explanation that somehow floats around the question without ever landing on it. But the real trap is negative questions. This one gets foreigners every single time. You ask something like, "You haven't seen that movie before, right?" Then she says, "No," and you think, great, she hasn't seen it. Wrong. In that setup, no can mean no. What you just said is not correct, which means yes, she has seen it. This is exactly the kind of thing that makes a foreign man think he's going crazy, when really, he's just speaking two different kinds of logic in the same conversation. And while we're on the subject of conversation, there's another phrase foreigners hear all the time and never understand at first. For me, Filipinos love saying for me before giving an opinion. For me this, for me that. Foreigners hear it and think, well, obviously it's for you. Who else would it be for? But that little phrase does something important here. It softens the opinion. It tells the other person, I'm not trying to speak for the whole world. I'm not trying to force this on you. I'm just saying what I think. It's a humble cushion. A polite little safety net. And once you understand that, a lot of Filipino conversation starts making more sense. Now, let's move to something that foreigners notice fast, but never really understand until they've been here for a while. How can Filipinos have a full conversation while a dog is losing its mind 2 feet away? I swear, this country has some kind of built-in noise blindness. Barking dogs, karaoke, roosters, tricycles, televisions blasting in 2 directions at once, somebody's uncle yelling into a phone, none of it seems to matter. A foreigner is standing there feeling like his nervous system is under attack, and the Filipino next to him is calmly asking if he wants more rice like the environment is a quiet library. That's because a lot of Filipinos grow up inside noise. Noise is not a disruption. Noise is just weather. So while you're mentally trying to escape the sound of 3 dogs, 2 children, and one karaoke machine fighting for dominance, the people around you honestly may not even register any of it as unusual. Here's another thing that makes outsiders look rude without meaning to. Throwing something to another person. In a lot of places, if somebody asks for your keys, your lighter, or whatever's in your hand, you might casually toss it over. No big deal. In the Philippines, that can land badly. Filipinos are often taught that throwing things at people, even when it's convenient, can feel disrespectful, too rough, too casual, too careless. So if you meet your Filipina's family and her dad asks to borrow something, don't flip it through the air like you're in a beer commercial. Just walk it over and hand it to him. It sounds tiny, but these tiny things are exactly where foreigners accidentally step on cultural landmines. Now let's talk about online buying and selling, because this one is pure madness. Foreigners go browsing online in the Philippines and see a used car for 1 peso, a house for 1 peso, a motorcycle for 1 peso, a washing machine for 1 peso. At first, they think maybe it's a typo. Then they realize half the internet is doing it. That's because a lot of sellers want to appear first when people sort by lowest price. And second, they want you to message them so they can size you up before telling you the real number. If they think you're clueless, rich, rushed, or foreign enough to pay more, congratulations! The magical 1 peso listing just turned into a much higher conversation. It drives foreigners crazy because it feels dishonest. And honestly, it kind of is. But it's also one of those things that makes more sense once you understand the local mindset. People here are always hunting for the best possible deal, and sellers are always trying to leave themselves room to maneuver. It's messy, annoying, and incredibly normal. Speaking of weirdly normal things, let's talk about Filipino food. Because foreigners make the same mistake over and over again. They think the danger in the food is obvious. They look for something that appears spicy, some giant red warning sign, some dramatic looking pepper situation. But that's not how the Philippines gets you. The danger is hidden. A harmless looking piece of food is sitting there on your plate like it has no plans. Then you bite down and discover a whole chunk of ginger, a garlic bomb, or a little chili that feels like it was invented by a war criminal. Filipino food loves to hide tiny mouth disasters in plain sight, and locals are so used to it they often forget to warn you. So a smart foreigner learns to inspect the plate like he's searching for explosives, because sometimes you are. Now here's one that surprises people in a different way. A lot of foreigners expect some kind of verbal guidance during romance, feedback, direction, enthusiasm with subtitles. What they often get instead is silence. Not because the woman hates it, not because she's bored, not because something is automatically wrong, but because many Filipinas are raised to be more passive, more reserved, and less verbally expressive in intimate moments, especially early on. That can really throw foreigners off. They think, am I doing okay? Does she like this? Why is nobody saying anything? Meanwhile, from her side, she may simply assume you know what you're doing and that her role is not to narrate the whole event like a sports announcer. It's not always glamorous, but it's common. Comfort usually changes this over time. But in the beginning, yes, a lot of foreigners are surprised by how quiet things can get. Another funny little tell foreigners rarely understand is the pillow defense system. If a Filipina gets uncomfortable, shy, or suddenly feels too seen, and there's a pillow nearby, watch what happens. That pillow is going straight onto her lap like a shield. It's almost automatic, like her body made the decision before her brain even caught up. Foreigners sometimes think it's random. It isn't. It's a hiding move, a protection move, a please do not look too deeply into my soul right now move. Once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Now let's get into one of the most Filipino things imaginable, making something out of almost nothing. A lot of poor families here have learned how to stretch food, stretch flavor, stretch everything. And one example that always catches outsiders off guard is burnt rice coffee. Yes, really. Burn the rice, steep it in hot water, and now you've got a rough, bitter coffee substitute. No, it doesn't sound sexy. No, it's not something you'd brag about at a brunch in California. But when money is tight, people get creative, and Filipinos are incredibly good at that. That same spirit shows up in so many parts of life here, saving leftovers, reusing things, fixing things instead of replacing them, stretching a little into enough. A lot of foreigners come in thinking it all looks strange. Then, after enough time, they realize it's not strange. It's survival mixed with practicality. And that may be the real thing foreigners get wrong more than anything else. They keep assuming everything in the Philippines should work according to the rules they're used to. It doesn't. This place has its own rhythm, its own logic, its own shortcuts, its own weird little habits that only start making sense once you stop fighting them and start observing them. That's why some foreigners stay frustrated the whole time they're here. They keep asking, why is it like this? Why does nobody just say it straight? Why is the toilet a transaction? Why is the online price fake? Why is the food trying to kill me? Why can these people ignore barking dogs like trained monks? And the answer is simple, because this is the Philippines. Not a copy of where you came from, not a tropical version of your home country with better weather. It's its own thing, and once you stop expecting it to behave like somewhere else, it becomes a lot more fun. So yes, a lot of this is funny, some of it is annoying, some of it is surprisingly useful once you understand it. But almost all of it makes more sense when you stop asking, why can't this be more normal? And start asking, okay, so what's the local logic here? That's when the country opens up. That's when confusion turns into charm. And that's when you stop being the foreigner who is constantly stunned by everything and start becoming the one who actually knows how to move here.